Hello and welcome to another segment in TTM's It Takes a Village. A lot of people don't know that putting on a play is like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. There are so many pieces involved, and some that the audience doesn't even see or maybe not recognize. Today we are talking to costumer extraordinaire Kathleen Schultz. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, Christy.
Thank you so much for joining us. So tell us a little bit about what the role of the costume designer does for a production.
Well, the costume designer can tell a lot about the characters just in the style of the clothing, in the style and period of the piece. You know, lately we've seen a lot of Shakespeare things that have been done in today's time instead of in the olden time. So there's research that goes into that, you know, to tell a story. You can tell a story with color, with style, relationships. I know, speaking of Shakespeare, I did a show for MAPPA and we had all the families in certain colors. You know, the blues, the burgundies, the browns, the greens. You know, it's like a tartan when you have like a brigadoon. You have a whole family of people that are all in a certain plaid, in a certain, you know, to really tell who are the families and who are the people that work together. So I think that costumes can really add a lot to, for me, a lot. When I go to see movies, that's what I, you know, love to see are the costume design. That's so important to me.
They're almost an invisible continuation of the story for the audience. The audience doesn't really always know what you're telling them, but it does add to the story. Like you say, having families or couples that share colors or patterns, it draws the eye, and in the back of the brain it tells the audience these people belong together.
Yeah, I would be disappointed if somebody came to a show and went out and the only thing they had to say was like, oh wow, the costumes were fantastic. That's not what you're going for. You're going for something that is woven together, you know, with the actors, the directing, the lighting design. I feel like costumes sometimes aren't recognized, but they're recognized way more than lighting designers. You know, lighting design is often overlooked. They don't understand the drama and the mood and the overall arc of everything that can be done by these added elements.
That's so true. I was looking at pictures of Les Mis, which beautifully costumed, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. That was big show that I did for MAPPA.
That's right. And it was gorgeous. And visually, the lighting too.
That was 90 some people with multiple costumes. That was quite a feat.
It was incredible and such an amazing experience. I would be very happy if we were still doing that particular show. I was saying,
wouldn't it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was
great.
Fantastic. So how much input do you have with the director? Do you read the script and then say, I think it should look this way? Or does the director come to you and say, I want this?
It's really interesting. It's, for me, having only done costume design here on Maui, because I didn't go to school for costume design. I went to school for elementary education, but I did start sewing when I was in the 6th grade, and my mother was a master seamstress. I mean, she could make tutus. She made all of my costumes. She made wardrobes for me, you know, for different things. She made my prom dress. She was really a master seamstress, and she taught me a lot about sewing. And so I always loved it. And I always loved doing costumes. And I started teaching dance when I was 12. So I loved the costume aspect of it. But so just doing it for shows, I've only done it here on Maui. And I can say that different directors approach it from a completely different place. You know, when you get together in those initial meetings, there are some directors that I've worked with that they have a complete and total vision for what they want. I even went fabric shopping with a director, that said, oh, let's use this for this, let's use this fabric for this character, and what about this color palette? So we actually were there together, designing it together. And I know from myself, having directed shows, kids shows, I have from the beginning, when I read the script and from the beginning that I know I'm going to do a show, I have a complete idea of what the color palette should be, what I'm thinking about for the designs of the costumes. So luckily I get to costume my own shows, or I work together with people that are really great collaborators. And then you sit down with them and then the ideas just start flying, and they'll, I worked with Vanessa on Mulan, and we just had a ball together. For Vanessa Cerrito, we started, coming up with ideas, and she was like, what about this and what about that? And it was just so much fun to do it with her. Other directors, they've waited for the costume designer to come in with ideas and pictures and drawings and swatches of fabric, and they'll say, oh yeah, I like that, or what about this for those, to maybe the ideas to change some of your ideas, which for me is not a problem, because I'm from the school of whatever the director wants, that's what you give them. And so it's, I think it depends. I mean, look at Julie Taymor. She has, she's the same way. When she directs and does the show, she does the costumes, she has ideas, and she probably has a whole team of people to execute her ideas. We never have that.
We never have that.
It's me, usually me and one other person or one other mother volunteering.
And I have seen you into the night working on tutus and sewing. You're amazing. Do you have a preference on whether the director comes to you and says, I want it to look this way? Or do you do you have a preference in which way the director works?
I think it's great if a director has ideas that they're looking for, because then you're on the same page. Because I know sometimes you'll show things and say, this is what I'm going to do, and then you do it, or you execute it, or it's done, and then the director will say like, oh, that's not what I thought at all, that's not what I was picturing. And then you have to go back in at the last minute and try to do something else, or argue about what you want to be kept in and what you want to be let go. So I prefer the process with ideas, but I know that it doesn't happen like that even in the big time. There are directors that have ideas, and there's other directors that leave it all up to you. They're like, you're the costume designer, you design, you show me, and I'll say yes or no. So
there.
Yeah.
What are your biggest challenges being a costume designer working on any show, whether it's a small show or a big show? Is there anything that is one of your biggest challenges?
I think one of the biggest challenges that you'll hear from any costume designer, especially doing community theater. I mean, I'm sure it's different in the big time. When the actor is told, you're going to wear this suit, it weighs 200 pounds, it'll be packed with ice, and you'll be in it for 10 hours. They're making the big bucks, and they just go, okay, whatever you say, I'll do it. Here, my biggest challenge is I just feel like we're in this, we want to have fun. You have people with body issues, they don't see themselves well, or they're shy, or they're insecure, and they just have ideas about what they should be wearing, and oh, I don't look good in that. And then even with kids, you have to say to them, this is not something maybe you would wear an everyday wear, but for this show and for this character, this is what I want you to wear. And my biggest challenge is I feel if an actor isn't happy and they feel self-conscious and uncomfortable, they're not going to be able to bring to the character everything that they could. So I feel like it's my job to strike a balance between what they really feel good in and what they're going to feel they can do the character the best in. I have sometimes choices. Like when I know that I'm going to do costume fittings, I'll have, and even I do this even with the kids, I'll have some choices. So when I have someone come in, I'll say, here's what I'm thinking. I've got these 3 skirts and these 3 vests or these 3 dresses. They're all in your size. Let's try them on and see which one you like the best. And I find that with that, they have a choice as well. And I think that people resonate with that, being able to make the choice and say, oh yeah, this really feels like the character. This feels like what I'm going for. And I'm not always able to do that, because when there's a lot of costumes, it's just time and energy. But I try to make sure that the actor feels fantastic.
And you are brilliant at that. Although I will say one of the most uncomfortable costumes I've ever worn was when we did Mackers. And those
Yes.
big capes and everything, but I try so hard not to be one of
Color
those
tape with the hoods.
Yes, the big black ones and it was so hot and everything was so heavy and
yes.
And then the masks when we did the Duncan masks. But I've always tried not to be one of those actors that was like, I don't like this, I can't wear this. The only time I will say is like if this is poking me or I can't breathe.
Yes.
But otherwise I figure, it's the show, not me. So it's not my choice.
Yeah. I'm trying to raise a generation of children that understand it's the costume designer and the team of creators to make the show look the best they can and to make each individual actor the best they can. So I always say to them, when you come in and you're trying on your costume, be grateful, be thankful. And then once we get to the costume section and we're looking, if we really feel that it's not the best for the character or the best for you as a creative team, we can make that decision. But always be grateful and thankful and support your team. Support your costume designer and your directors. Try everything that they ask you to. So I'm trying to create a generation of those.
And God bless you for that. Me too. Which is one of the reasons we're doing this series is to bring to light how many people, it's not just the actor. It's not just that one person who gets the limelight. It's all these people who are doing their best to make them look good. That's the whole point.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
What do you love most about doing costumes? What's your favorite thing about it?
I love work. I do love working with people. I love the one-on-one relationship and having a chance to really connect. For children, the costume part of it is sometimes 99.9% of the whole experience, is getting to put on the costume and transform themselves. And it really helps for kids to really put on that costume and transform themselves into another character. So I love that aspect of it. And it brings me a lot of joy to sit out and watch the production and just see how it's all come together. People's ideas, the director's ideas, and how we manifested that. So there's a lot of joy in working together and collaborating. I like that. That's the part I like the best, is the collaboration of the talents.
When it all comes together for Tech Week, that's when we get to see all of that collaboration coming together to that one point. Are you one of those people who likes Tech Week?
It's frightening in a way for costume design because you're creating kind of in a tunnel. You have an idea, you have a small room, you have everything in there. First I start with all the fabrics and then I put that all out and it's folded and I can see it all, as the fabrics. But then you start to make things and then it's hanging on the racks. And then one by one they come in and you're just trying on one thing at a time. So it isn't until Tech Week and maybe they're up on the stage that you get to stand back and go, oh, that's not working. I don't like that. I mean, it doesn't happen that often, but it's scary because I think as a director, you get to see bits and pieces of it coming together through the whole process. I only get to see what's in my room and what I've made and how it looks hanging on the hanger. It's not until you step back and get to see everything on that Tech Week that you're either super happy or you're going, oh, I need to fix. And then I usually have, you know, the first night of dress, I'll have 10 pages of notes of all the things I have to fix and add and take away and change. And then the next night, maybe it's 8 pages, and the next night it's 6 pages, until you get down to opening and you've had 3 dress rehearsals or 4 dress rehearsals, and everything is to your, almost everything is to your liking.
How do you personally handle the stress of Tech Week with all those notes and all of the changes and the late night sewing? Because I do know that you spend a lot of time in your workshop during Tech Week. How do you handle that stress?
I think knowing that you love what you do. I mean, I really do enjoy it. And the stress is just a part of everything. There's stress in everything. It's not like, oh, I wish I didn't have this job because it's so stressful. There's stress in everything. I'm sure Mother Teresa had stress. You know, I mean, it just goes along with it. I try to get good sleep. I try to eat really well and stretch. You know, I'm lucky that I teach dance at the same time, so I have to do, you know, some kind of movement. And I think taking care of yourself with children, I know that I have to do that, because the one thing I don't like, if it happens to me, is I don't like not being patient with children, because you can just say something one time that can crush them for the rest of their lives. So I always think about that. I always think about, I don't want to say things in a way that comes off sounding mean or snide or snappy or anything like that. So I really try to take care of myself in a way that I know when I go in to work with the kids that I'll be patient and loving and kind.
And you are one of the most kind people I've ever met on a consistent basis.
Thank you.
Do you do you enjoy working with actors, that one-on-one with them?
Yes. Yes.
Is there anything that you would like to have actors, no, let me rephrase that. Is there anything an actor could do to make your job easier as the costumer?
No, just like what I said with the kids, I try to say to them, you know, be positive, be thankful, be grateful. But with adults, I have a different relationship. I think it's good for them to be honest. I think it's good for them to say in a very positive way, you know, Kathleen, this right here under the arm, it feels like it's digging in. Is there anything you can do to fix that? You know, it feels like it's pushing in my chest. It feels like it's, you know, whatever it is, that's not feeling comfortable about the costume, they need to be honest and tell me. And I can say to them, oh, I can fix that. Or I can say, like, I don't know, I don't think there's anything I can do. I might be able to add a little piece in the side, and then we can try that. But I have a different relationship with the adults. I feel like we're there to make it work for them and for me. And so I need them just to be honest, but in a, you know, honest in a very positive way, rather than, oh, this makes me look like junk.
Remembering that you have 10 pages of notes and that everybody is stressed as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would say to people who might want to be a costume designer or costumier? Any advice that you would give them?
Oh, it's one of the most fun things we do at MAPA's summer camp is we have classes on costume design, and I get to talk to all the kids about costume design and show them slides, and I give them forms on paper and encourage them to design either their costume or other costumes in the show. And I get so excited seeing the kids that have potential and have a passion for it, that love it. And it's so exciting to think that maybe you had a part in that somehow with them being there to do a show, that they go, well, I like the acting part, that's fine, but wow, costume design really interests me. So, you know, pursue your dreams. There's a lot of, there's a lot of places for costume designers, and it's a beautiful artistic endeavor. And I think it's fantastic. Go for your dreams.
Do you ever use any of those designs that the kids do in your camp
You
for
know,
the shows?
we put them all up on the board so that everybody can see them. And I like to say that it does inform some of my decisions. And I will say that to them, you know, like when you do this design, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is what I will be designing for the show, for your costume, but it might inform my design somehow, either in color or shape or ideas, you know, with wings or how to do wings. I had them really explain their design in detail. And some of them had 20 notes on their pages with arrows pointing to what kind of fabric it should be and how it should be folded or pleated, and, you know, ideas for the headpiece. And it was, yeah, there's some kids are so detailed. I love it.
That is amazing. It really is. You are truly an inspirational person.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your time today. And thank you for shedding a little bit of light. Oh, I do have actually one more question. What's the difference between a costumier and a costume designer, or is there a difference?
I have no idea.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think it's a different way of saying it, but I could be totally wrong. Either one is fine for me. Thanks so much for having me, Christy.
Thank you so much, Kathleen Schultz. Amazing costume designer, choreographer, director, and all around wonderful person. Mahalo.
Thanks, Christy.